Welcome back to week 2 of our Bible study online. Last week we looked at Daniel chapter 2 and explored the dream of King Nebuchadnezzar. I hope that you spent some time with your family discussing why Daniel was able to interpret the dreams of the king, discussing the fact that Daniel was given a gift by God and he used that gift to serve God. Hope you spent some time exploring the gifts that you have been given and how you can use them to serve God. And spend some time with your kids helping them explore the gifts that they have been given and how they too can use them to serve God. This week we come to Daniel chapter 3. I really love Daniel chapter 3 because it explores that question of even if. And so it really explores our faith and how strong is our faith, and will our faith stand up even if God doesn't react in the way that we thought he would or that we hoped he would. So as we open up Daniel chapter 3, we see that King Nebuchadnezzar has had a statue built. It's a huge statue, over 90 feet tall, 6 feet wide, and it was built in the image of his gods. We don't really know exactly what it looked like, but we have some idea. And then after the statue was built, a decree went out to all the land that stated whenever music was played, they all had to bow down and worship that golden image. And if they refused to, they were thrown in to the furnace. So the time came when the very first flute played, the harp played, and the music began, and the kingdom was to bow down before the golden image. I would spend a little bit of time right here talking to my family about idols. And, while our idols don't look the same, they're not 90-foot statues in the air. We still have them. Maybe it's money, maybe it's fame, maybe it's greed. Maybe it's that latest toy that we bought, whatever it is. An idol is really anything that comes in between us and God. And so spend some time talking about why we shouldn't worship idols. So here we are at the statue. We see that everybody begins to kneel to the statue except for 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They refuse to bow down and worship the false god. Their allegiance lied in the Almighty God. More than likely, King Nebuchadnezzar issued this decree to test the loyalty of his kingdom. If you'll remember back in Daniel chapter 2, he had just received a dream from God. And Daniel had interpreted that dream and showed him how his kingdom was going to fail. And so this is a way to test the loyalty of his kingdom and make sure that they would stand on his side. Perhaps he was trying to eliminate the possibility of his kingdom falling. Of course, we know that it did fall, and we know that every kingdom will fall until the final kingdom is established and God is sitting on his throne forever. That is the only kingdom that will never fail. There were some men that seen that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't bow down to the idol, and they were jealous of these men already. And this infuriated them because they had saw all the privilege that these men had. They had seen them rise to the top, and they were well trusted. We know they were well trusted because when these men come to the king and tattled on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we see the king give them one last chance. Even though his decree said that they would immediately be thrown in the fire, he gave them one last chance to worship God, to worship his God. Here's a good time to spend some time talking about temptations that we face that might cause us to jeopardize our integrity, to jeopardize our faith, or maybe to give up a little bit of our faith where it's not solid anymore. We know that King Nebuchadnezzar, having issued the decree, having given the man one last chance, quickly realized these three individuals were not going to back down. And this infuriated the king. So he had the furnace heated up, we're told, to 7 times hotter than it had ever been. Now, this is a figurative piece of language here. We don't know exactly how hot it was, but we know it was really hot. It was so hot that the soldiers who escorted Daniel's friends to the fire were killed in the process. These Hebrew men were dropped down into the furnace, and then something miraculous happened. As the kingdom watched, and as King Nebuchadnezzar watched, the king realized there was now 4 men in the fire. So he asked the officials, did we not throw 3 into the fire? Of course they had only thrown 3. And we're told that this 4th individual was the Son of God. That's how it was described, and we know from looking in this, God was right there in the fire with him. You know, I would spend some time right here just discussing what it means that God showed up in the fire. As we back up a little bit and we look at the reaction of these 3 individuals before the king, King Nebuchadnezzar had asked them one question: who will save you now? In other words, who's going to save you from my wrath? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had a perfect answer. They said, you know what? We don't know if our God will save us or not, but we know that he is very capable of doing that very thing. However, even if he doesn't rescue us from this fire, we will not compromise our faith in him. We will still serve him. Our allegiance is still to him. Spend some time talking to your kids and to your spouse and maybe some friends about what that looks like. You know, there's a lot of times in life that we're faced with a fire. It's at those times that our faith is really tested. Will we give in? Will we take the easy route, or will we follow God? Just because we believe in God, just because we serve God, doesn't mean that we'll never go through fires. In fact, we know we will. We're told we will. But what really matters within that time frame is whether or not we place our faith in the right thing, and that's God. The temptation sometimes is to go the easy route. All these men had to do was bow down for a minute. All their friends, all the family members that had come with them, the Hebrews that had been there with them and had worshiped God and, you know, still claimed probably to worship God, a lot of them, they were all bowed down. I'm sure if they had a chance to talk to their friends, they would have said, hey guys, it's not a big deal. Just go ahead and do it. We know that you worship God still. But they knew this would be compromising their faith. And it would show the world that they didn't truly have faith that God would deliver them from anything. They didn't truly have faith that even if he didn't deliver them, he was still God. Church, when we get into the middle of a fire, we don't always know how to work out. Sometimes it works out differently than what we thought. But we can have faith that God will never leave us. He will never forsake us. And he's right there with us, even while we're walking through the fire. Spend some time with your kids, with your family, with your spouse, with your friends, talking about what it means to know that God is working all things out for those that love the Lord, and how we can stay strong in our faith, knowing that God will be right there with us, so we don't have to compromise. Listen, I hope you have some good discussions. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. We are so excited that we were able to open up the church again for Sunday morning worship. hopefully soon we'll be able to have this Bible study right here at the church. But until then, we'll continue doing it this way. We love you. We miss you. God bless you.